What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at another Top War video. Today it's going to be on the World Boss. Now, as you guys know, the World Boss has changed and it's a little bit more complicated than it used to be. You just send your best match and hope for the best. It's not quite that simple now. There are a few different elements that have been added to the World Boss, and they have changed it to where you have an Army World Boss, a Naval World Boss, and an Air Force World Boss. The World Boss we're going to be looking at is the Army version of the World Boss. Keep in mind, every one of the versions of the World Boss act the same if you use this setup. This is by far the best setup that you could possibly use for the World Boss. I'm going to explain it two different ways, depending on if you have Valhalla troops, or if you have a hero that shoots multiple times, or if you just have normal heroes that shoot one time each. I will explain both setups and why you should use that particular setup. Now, like I said, we are going to be looking at the World Boss Army. So, when receiving damage from an army unit, 100% of the time will be a critical hit. So, anytime your tanks hit, it will crit. So therefore the damage increase buff you don't really need. We'll go through the comps here in a little bit. When receiving damage from any army, 100% of it will be a critical hit. It's very, very important since it is weak to army. That means you're going to want to use as many tanks as you can. Even if you're not army, it'll probably hit harder if you hit with tanks. Now, that being said, if it's a naval war boss, obviously you're going to want to use ships. If it's weak towards Air Force, you're going to want to use Air Force. The second one is when receiving crits, the damage taken is increased by 300%. So not only are you on critical 100% of the time, your damage is going to be increased 300% plus whatever your comp is for damage and crit increase. Now, the last comp or the last perk on here is the one that's really, really confusing to pretty much everybody. This last little perk is super, super confusing, and it's the one most people don't understand, but we're going to go over it. Like I said, me and Baker spent 3 to 4 days studying our attacks and learning how to make this right. What it says is it will explode if it's being attacked by 2 different special effects, which gain from the Special Effects Research Center deals damage equal to 2,000% of the attack, effective 5 times in a battle. Now, like I said, it took us a long time to figure out exactly what I was talking about. There's a couple other videos out there that are a little bit misleading, that if you just put one unit in there, you'll get it, which is kind of true in a sense, but we're going to show you how to improve on that even further. Now, going into a little bit more of what the special effects are. Everyone got the new Special Effects Research Center on their base recently, so it's still pretty new. I know a lot of people have been leveling it up, and we've never really been able to experience it full-heartedly of what it does. Going into our base here, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. So if you look at the Special Research Center, you obviously have 3 different elements. We have piercing, plasma, and explosion. I personally have mine set up just like this. That way I have all 3 of them on set different things. No matter what I use for units, as long as I use 2 different units, I will get the effects towards the World Boss. So like I said, this is an Army World Boss, so I'm going to be using obviously Army, and I'll be using one of the other 2. It doesn't really matter which one you use, whether you use planes or you use ships. I think in this one I would recommend probably using ships for the Army World Boss. I prefer using my airplanes. That's because my Air Force is a little bit stronger than my ships. You guys use whichever one you want to. The secondary units don't matter as much. Just make sure whichever 2 units you use, they have different elements attached to them. Now, looking at the comps, we're going to go to the comps. Now, what I have done here is I have taken my army comps at the top there, and this is what I would particularly use. As you can see, I do not have a crit buff on my army due to the fact that your army is going to crit every single hit anyways, so you don't really need it. Therefore, I move the crit buff to my secondary units. Now, I have mine on my ships here. You can put them on whatever. I'm going to also put some on Air Force. Use them on everything. So what we're going to do, we're going to attack the world boss. And as you can see, we have 9 different slots, 1 through 9. This is how they are numbered in the center, in your new little formation center that you guys got. So you're going to want to put your primary units for the world boss in 2, 5, 7, and 9. This is only if you do not have Valhalla troops or you have a hero that does not shoot 3 times. If you have any of those heroes that shoot multiple times, you're not going to want to use this setup. You're going to want to use the setup at the end of the video. I am going to show exactly why you want this setup. Just remember 1 through 9 in this order and you will be fine. So, like I said, I'm going to be using planes and tanks to be able to hit this world boss as hard as we can. Granted, it is weak to tanks. You would think we would want more tanks than Air Force planes. Not necessarily the case due to the fact of how that new special center works and the crit hits. So we're going to hit the world boss with that exact setup. And we can go in and we're just going to, I however have it saved to my formation because it's really easy to change your formation. And we're just going to multiple hit it as many times as we can. And then we'll go back in and look at our battle reports. And I will show you exactly why that is the setup I chose to use. So once we get this last attack done, there we go. We can go into our Dark Forces here and look at them. So all the attacks are pretty much the same, 1.25 AAs. I'm going to go ahead and share that one to the Alliance, show them what we did. And if we look at the rewards, I did 6.24 AA damage on that particular world boss. Now I am going to port home real quick. And we're going to take a closer look at those reports. I went to the wrong one. So here's one for 1.25 AA. We can file that one. Like I said, they're all really super close, but here's what it does. So slot 1 attacks, slot 2 did critical hit and explode. Slot 3 and 4 were just normal attack. And if you watch the top numbers on the top of the world boss, the big number on the very top, that's the explosion effect. The reason you do this setup is because all 5 of my explosions were on our primary attack units. So we critical hit on slot 2, slot 5, slot 7, and slot 9. If you guys go back through there, you can actually watch that slower if you need to. But that's what it is. The reason you want to is, like I said, if you go into your formations, slot 1, you do have attack bonus. We're not getting that. Slot 2 is very important because it has unit attack of 140% plus the damage increase. Slot 5 also has 140%. So 2 and 5 are definitely ones you want to attack critical hit on if you can. Like I said, we're crit hitting on slot 2, 5, 7, and 9, which is all of our primary units. And then when it resets, it will debuff on slot 1 and critical hit on slot 2 for a second time, giving us our 5 total. Here's the same thing with Navy, using the ships instead of using it, but this is using Cat. This is why you don't want to do it, because every once in a while Cat does her skill right here, and if you notice, she shot 3 times right there on that target, and then we're going to critical hit on that first ship, and it's going to make it where we don't get quite as much damage. That's why if you have a hero such as Cat, or any hero that does multiple shots on their tanks, just like this one, you're not going to want to do it, because then you're going to do your critical hit and your explosive hit on your ships. So if you're using Cat, like I said, go to the end of the video and watch that one. That's going to be the setup you want to use for Valhalla troops or for heroes that hit multiple times. I do have one that will show it. Here's the setup that I would use, but I do have one for Valhalla troops. This is with Katniss also, or Cat also. And as you can see, it's going through, it's going to debuff. We will critically hit on slot 1 here. So after this tank finishes shooting, we will critical hit there, but then we're going to critical hit on this 3rd tank as well. And then we already critical hit there on the 5th tank. So you're still going to get more critical hits off your tanks because you're going to get critical hits off slot 3 and 5, and then slot 1, 3, and 5 again. So you're going to get 4 out of 5 your critical hits on your tanks, which is why this is the setup you want to use if you're using Cat or if you're using Valhalla troops, because they kind of mess up the timing of the other formation. So depending on which formation you want to use, that's the formation you need to use for your heroes or your troops, depending on what you have. Like I said, I do have one video of a Valhalla troop. You can see my damages of the differences between Cat and Ben when I was using my other setup. Ben was obviously much higher. These are between 555 trillion to 798 trillion versus 1.25 AA damage. So there's a big difference there depending on how you use this setup. My best recommendation would be you try both of them and go from there. Here's one with Valhalla troops. As you can see, we're going to critical hit on 3. This is obviously an air boss. Valhalla troop shot. You're going to critical hit on number 5 here. You're going to regular attack on 6, regular attack on 7, regular attack on 8, and regular attack on 9. And then slot 1 will be another Valhalla troop, which they critical hit. And then your critical hit on 3 again. Your critical hit on 5 again. So that is how the critical hits work. You have to use both of them, so you're going to have your secondary unit hit first. It's going to kind of give you a debuff, and then your primary unit will critical hit and explode. So Baker got 1.06 with an Air Force World Boss, which is a really, really good hit. Valhalla troops give solid damage, so you still would like to use the critical hits or the Valhalla troops as much as you can. But that's what we have for you guys here. I hope this made sense. If it does not make sense, do please let me know in the comments. I will try to help you. And if it doesn't, I can slow it down and try to redo this video to help you guys a little bit more understand. And I'll do a secondary video if I need to. But please do let me know in the comment section. I want to know whether this helped you understand this a little bit more. If not, like I said, I will redo this video. I will slow it down. I know it went pretty quick. I didn't want to make a super long drawn out process on this video, but I will try to help as many people as I can on this. So let us know in the comment section. I'll reply to everyone in the comment section that needs help. And until next time, just remember,